Hey, what's going on, everybody? Andrew here, back for our build review show. Apologies for the late start. Was having some technical difficulties, but appreciate you guys tuning in on this show. I bring users' builds up live on stream, giving them personalized feedback and advice about things I think that they can do differently in their builds to help improve their post-contest sim ROIs and ultimately help them build and submit stronger lineups into their contests. So we do this show Mondays and Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern. If you ever want to get signed up for a show, all you need to do is drop your DK username in the office hours channel. Let me know what sport and slate you want me to review, and I will add you to the list for the next show. But with that said, we do have 3 people signed up for today's show, and it should be a good one here. The only thing that I'm not seeing from one user is what sport they wanted to sign up for, but that's okay. We'll get it all sorted out here. So looks like we're going to be starting off with some Monday Night Football showdown action. So that'll be good. So give me a second to get SaberSim up on the screen here, and then we will jump right in and start reviewing some lineups. But was having a couple issues prior to the show, so apologies for starting a little later than usual here. All right. Let me get this first user up on the screen. Get SaberSim rocking and rolling. All right, let's see. Login. So first person up is going to be Hassan, and we're going to be looking at that Monday Night Football. Okay, let's go to review. All right, let's get SaberSim up. Cool beans. So let's go back to Monday. Let's go to NFL. Come on, slates. Load for me. Just waiting for this to load. Let's try a little refresh. All right, I might have to hard refresh this one. Let's give this a shot. Okay. Apologies. Everything running a little wonky at the moment. Everything was fine for office hours like an hour ago. Okay, I have an idea. Let's see if this works. All right, cool. This worked. All right, so we're going to go a little bit out of order here. Going to start with, I read it as Jimmy type, but I could be pronouncing that wrong. From Discord, asked us to review some FanDuel NBA lineups. So we're going to start there, and then we'll circle back to the other 2 users who signed up. For some reason, this was loading, and the other ones weren't. But either way, let's jump in here. So FanDuel NBA yesterday. Reminder, we don't have contest flashback for FanDuel, so going to do our best to approximate, the decisions made in these lineups and how they're looking. So let's go over the contest tab. Contest selection is really, really good here. So, you can see like how many lineups this user is able to get down here, right? I mean, we see 150 lineups, 5 cents, right? $7.50. 60 lineups, 25 cents, $15, right? So 4 lineups, 222, couple single entries, right? Like I think all in all, this is probably like $30 to $35, and they're getting, you know, over 200 lineups down, right? I really like, you know, if you're trying to start out and, you know, you're trying to decide between like DraftKings and FanDuel, the 5-cent 150 max and the 25-cent 150 max that they run, you know, DraftKings only runs a 50-cent 150 max, right? They do run a lot of dime times. That's the other thing that DraftKings has, right? They have all these 10-cent contests. So there's pros and cons to both. But I really like this 5-cent 150 max contest. All right. And then they mix in some single entries. So all good stuff here on the contest selection side. Let's go to this build 1, because this one has lineups and build 2 does not. So I'm assuming this is their like quote unquote pre-slate build here. Okay. All right. So what do we see? 5K lineups, 58K min, salary, 60K max, 1 player pool filter, projection greater than 4, just chopping off some of the lowest projected players. 1 lineup filter. What do we got? ROI greater than 0 seems good. Unique rank, so getting a unique lineup for all of their entries. Autofill. Target ROI, 3 uniques. Ignoring minimax exposures for single entries. I even saw some minimax exposures, so that works out well. Seems like just doing a little bit of risk management, right? I mean, LeBron, you know, 40% owned, they cap him at 70. Reeves, 40%, they cap him at 70. Porter, 51%, cap him at 65. I think those are all fine risk management decisions here. I don't think there's anything wrong with any of those things here. Okay. Who are the highest value plays? So those are all like higher value plays, like 1, 2, 3 of them right there, right? Which is okay. And then those are their highest exposed plays too, right? Pretty much. So I think these decisions are fine. I don't have any problem with managing some risk post build here. Sorting mostly by prize pool. I don't know if they did this in any particular fashion. Like it starts out prize pool and then it jumps to like some single entries and then the 5-cent last. I could see the reason for actually doing it this way, getting those single entries in and then your 5-cent, right? Just because the entry fees are higher on like a 1 lineup basis here. So I don't mind having these single entries above the 150 max. All in all, it seems like a pretty hands-off process. Seems like a good process, you know, playing low stakes contests, getting a lot of entries in, using contest sims, using ROI greater than 0, making some risk management decisions, making some decisions about how to sort your contests for using unique rank. I like this, right? I think that this is a good, solid process. And I think that, you know, you should be able to win the low stakes with this process over time here. So I wouldn't do too much different. If you want, you know, if you can play DK, right, and you want a closer look at like how your lineups are doing, you know, consider putting some action in over there, right? But if you can't, I'm pretty confident that this is a very good process. And then, you know, I see all these swap builds, right? Like swap 1, swap 2, swap 2. So, you know, you're late swapping throughout the slate and making adjustments as the slate goes on. So all of those are really good things. Very, very happy with what this user is doing. If you guys are new to NBA and you're trying to figure it out, you know, this is a pretty solid process to follow. All right. Good stuff there. Next question. Next user up. We're going to try and go back to Hassan here. I think this should work now. So let me get this up on the screen. And we're going to get off NBA. We're going to go back to Monday Night Football. So this was between the Lions and the Niners. It was quite the shootout. So let's get this up on the screen. Get to start in the contest tab as always. All right. So starting from the ground up here, right? Like 50 cent, 150 max, putting 40 entries in there, right? It's always okay to enter less than the max. Taking a shot at the $3, taking a couple shots at the $15. I don't mind, you know, taking some shots at the big one. I would rather you kind of do the same thing you did with the $3. Like, hey, I'm just going to throw one entry in there and then throw one entry in the $15 and then take that other $30 and spread it out amongst more low stakes contests, right? Like the 10-cent 20 max, the 25-cent 20 max. Those are big contests. They're mixing some single entries and some 3 max contests as well. So I think that, if you just put one entry in the big one and then use the other 30 to spread out, you could actually get a lot more entries down, which can be a good thing, right? So consider that next time you're entering contests. With that said, let's go to the showdown where you had 40 entries. Probably get a little bit better idea of how your lineup's graded out overall, looking at 40 as opposed to 1 or 3. So lineups are loading, and they have loaded. So we'll close those tabs, go over to users. See what says our guy hit a 20, and we are going to look at entries greater than or equal to 40, sort by sim ROI. All right, so 12.29% sim ROI, highest sim ROIs if we get rid of trains, which I'm not even really seeing any. Let's get rid of like 145 just in case. Yeah, so this is good. Highest sim ROI somewhere above 20%. So they're not too far here, right? 12% versus like 20%. Not a big difference. They actually had a positive ROI on the slate, which is nice. Let's see what we can mostly see here. So big thing I'm seeing, right? 73 average dupes, one unique lineup, 94.88 sim average score. Okay. If we look at some of these other users, this isn't that bad actually, right? We see like users kind of really similar here, 70 average dupes, 93.39 sim average score. We see 84 dupes, 94.49. See, like a lot of these metrics are really, really similar. So when you're close to the top range here, you're in the right spot. Now, I think what you need to think about here, right, is looking at this sim 99th% profit column. Okay, so this is the amount of money you make in your top 1% of sims. So basically what we do is we sim this 100,000 times, right? If we took your outcomes and we sorted them from most money won to least, the top 1% would be your sim 99th% profit. It's like, hey, 1% of the time you make at least this much money. Okay. So this number is actually a little bit low, right? It's 149.54. If you look at some of these other sets, 1400, 800, 400, we do see another 100 here, 690, 880, you kind of how are these users getting to a higher sim 99% profit than you are? Well, it's mostly going to be due to their average dupes, right? Their lineups are duplicated less. So on average, so when they do win, they take more of the first place prize than other users who have more dupes, like your set of lineups here, right? So that's why duplication is important. You want to, it's hard enough to build a winning lineup. And then when you do, you want to get as much of that prize as possible. So what can we do here, right? Caesar also asked me to talk about geometric mean. So I and what do we see here? So I think it looks like they actually raised minimum salary. I would probably leave it at the default. Lowering salary is probably one of the best ways to get a more unique set of lineups, right? Like allowing the builder to build lineups if they're optimal in the sims where the salary actually comes in a bit lower can be a really good way of getting to lineups that the field is less likely to play. We have one rule. My projection geo mean less than 10. Okay, so it's actually no more than 25. So they are doing something here to account for duplication in some regard, right? A geo mean of 25. This is a fine blanket rule. No worries there. Another thing I'm noticing, right? Sorting by projected score. I would avoid this. This will probably lead to higher duplication on average. because people using traditional optimizers is their primary way of building lineups, right? For our recommendation is to use our single game Saber score sorting metric, which is the default when you run the build. So what this does, right, it has three variables. One of them is projected score. Okay, so we understand, like, lineups need to have like a good floor. So we do take that into account. But we also take into account other variables. Okay, those two variables is ownership. We're using a negative weight on ownership of the lineup. And then we are using what we call sim optimals. So what sim optimals are, basically we run the sim, right? And then when the lineup is the highest scoring lineup, we note that as like, hey, this is the optimal lineup for this simulation. Okay. Well, what if a set of players is the best set of players for more than one sim? We're not going to put the same lineup into your pool more than once. However, we understand that information is valuable. So we tally it as sim optimal. So basically, when we were running the sims, this exact set of 6 players, this captain and these 5 flexes, were the highest scoring lineup 2 times. And then we use that variable in the Saber score formula. So this is like, in Showdown, you're mostly hunting for the optimal lineup, right? The highest scoring lineup achievable. So we're noting what lineups are optimal in our sims. We're accounting for projection, and we're accounting for ownership by basically putting a negative weight on lineups with a high ownership value here. Okay, so we think Saber score is better. I would recommend using it personally, and I think that also could help you to get to a more unique set of lineups. So between big recommendations here are going to be use Saber score single game, use a lower min salary. Personally, I set mine to 40,000. If you want to leave it at the default of 45,000, that's okay. And keep using the geo mean rule. I think that's a good one here. So I think if you make just some small changes here, I think that'll help you to be a little bit more unique, get that sim 99% profit up. Again, you were already positive 12% sim ROI. I don't want to, talk too much about like completely throwing your process out the window or anything like that. I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think we just need to make some small fine-tune adjustments, and hopefully we can help you to be one of the higher sim ROIers and hopefully win more of the first place prize when you do win, right? So all other things aside, I think some of these opinions, right, being a little opinionated about your captains and stuff like that, totally fine. Super small adjustments. You're just kind of just guiding the builder like, hey, I just want like a little bit of this or a little bit of that. I don't see you like taking a 20% owned player and asking for like 60% of them or something crazy. So all these small exposures requests, I think, are totally fine. I think you're doing a lot of the right things here, and keep up with it, but keep those adjustments in mind. All right, good stuff there. All right, we got one more user up, and they requested to be reviewed for the NFL main slate from last Sunday. So we will do that. So let's get this up on the screen. So this last one was Monday. Got to go to Sunday. All right. All right. So on the Sunday main, I'm going to go over the contest tab. Okay. So this is what I would say we highly recommend not entering contests this way. And the reason for that is that, you're playing 8 entries total for, $1,000 total, and the variance just like goes through the roof. And the reason for that, right? So I'll display this a little bit. We can talk about this, but I think the big thing here is probably going to be contest selection. So let me go find this. No, that's not it. Okay, it's definitely this one. All right, let me get this up. All right, so we did this big back testing project, right? Where we basically were trying to figure out, how much variance there is in playing different types of contests and stuff like that, right? And this is like a pretty good snapshot of what we figured out. So we took a winning player and we put them in 3 type of different contest types. We put them in all single entry, which is this top row. Put them in all multi-entry, so like all 150 max or all 20 max. And then we put them in what we call the DFS profit plan, which is basically a balance of the two. Okay. So daily wagers the same. End of the season expectation is pretty similar for all 3. But there's 2 big differences, in my opinion. Number 1 is this bankroll needed for 0% bust. So how big did their bankroll have to be to never go broke, right? The single entry is the absolute highest, right? It is double the profit plan one, which is the balance. It is, I don't know, 1.5x approximately the multi-entry. And then the second thing is the percent of bankroll wager. The single entry player had to wager the least amount of money on a regular basis, and the person doing a balance could wager, twice as much, right? 2.25x or something like that, right? And then multi-entry is still under 3%. Your contest selection most closely mimics the single entry player. Okay. So what that means is, like, it's not that you can't do that. Just be prepared for the biggest swings. Okay. When you're entering just a handful of contests or playing a handful of lineups, you can expect your results to be the swingiest, right? So what we really recommend is, I don't know if you have access to low stakes contests or not, like all. So sorting the DFS lobby by lowest entry fee to highest, and then entering contests like on the way up, right? And entering a balance of single entry and 3 max. So if you say you want to play like about $1,000, right? Okay, that's fine. Take 50 to 75% of that and put it into 20 max and 150 max contests, starting from the lowest in the lobby to the highest. And then take the other 25 to 50%, put that in single entries, and start from the lowest to the highest, right? So, there are tons of good contests, $5 single entries, multiple $12 single entries, $8 3 maxes, $15 3 maxes, $27 contests, $50 contest, $100 contest, right? And you go up and up and up. And if you end up where you still have, bankroll available and you want to play the power sweep and all these, like, that's great. But, like, don't neglect the other smaller contests, because the competition is going to be a little bit softer in those. The higher the stakes go, the tougher the contests get, right? Like the Wildcat, super tough contest. Really, it's because, the contest has 2,335 entries and it's a 70 max, right? So if you do 70 divided by 2,335, it really, or let's do that backwards, 2,335 divided by 70. It only takes 33 unique users to enter that contest or to max it out, right? So, like, even if we go into this contest, right? And then we go to users and we said there are 70 entries, and we sort here. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 10 players maxing out this contest, which that would be 700 entries, I believe, about, right? Like 70 times 10. Okay, and then divide that by 2,336. So about 30% of the entries are coming from people spending 333 times 70. Like every person on this list right now is spending $23,000 to max enter this contest. And I bet you, these, if you're familiar with DFS, these are some of the best names in the business. You see these guys all the time: Chipotle Addict, Papa Gates, Need Lunch Money, McLovin, Utical, B. Kreider, right? Jay Gerb, Saber Sim Users, won 2 millis this NFL season, right? Beamon, another Saber Sim user, entering a ton of stuff, right? you know, there's a saying, right? It's like, hey, you can be the 10th best poker player in the world, but if you're sitting at the table with the other 9, you're now the worst player in the game. Like, you want to avoid contests where these guys make up most of the lobby or most of the entries as much as possible. So that's what I would recommend. I'm not saying it's bad to play the Wildcat. I'm just saying you should play it when you've played every other good contest available, right? So, contest selection is like 90% of the game. And it's why we talked about it so much. It's why I'm spending so much time talking about it here. So keep that in mind for future slates. I honestly think that if you simply just change your contest selection, you could see massive differences in your results just based on that like one change alone. But all right, let's see how your actual lineups did. I'm going to look at the one with the most entries, which is going to be $4 here. So we have the Millie Maker up. And lineups are loading. All right, can jump over to users. All right, F-Borch, 4 entries here. So sim ROI is not good, right? Negative 50%. The biggest thing that's probably the issue here, and which I'm just like taking a quick glance at, sort by sim ROI. So interesting. So a lot of salary, 49.8, no dupes. I think this is it, like this 132.97 sim average score. We see like 138, 142, 141, 138, 139. We do see one other 132, which is like pretty interesting. But I think this is more like the exception rather than the rule, right? I think it'd be better to have some of these higher average projected lineups, like in general. So let's see, this one's like really low, right? Like 129. We see a 138. It's a little bit higher. 130. And then a 133. So these like the 130 is like minus 60. The 129 is like minus 74. These just get a little bit too low. I'm not 100% sure how you got to those. Let's go see. I'm not sure if you filled them in SaberSim or not. It's hard to tell. Anything, they probably came from build 4. That one says Wildcat. This one also says Wildcat. Okay. I'm not 100% sure of like process steps here. Sorting by like the Wildcat contest sim ROI specifically is like throwing me off a bit. So I'm not 100% sure how you filled like the other non-Wildcat contests. If you filled them using that contest's ROI, that could be a reason the lineups are grading out poorly. The Wildcat is only like 2,000 entries, and then you're putting lineups that grade out well in the Wildcat into a 100,000 plus entry contest, and that could definitely be a reason why they're not grading out so well. So not 100% sure there. What I would generally recommend, right, is if you're going to use direct fill, it's totally fine. Just go contest by contest, right? So all you need to do here is set this sorting metric to target ROI. And then when you do that, go into this drop down and only select the contest that you're viewing, right? So if I run a contest sim and I only select Wildcat, only selecting the contest in this drop down and using target ROI is the same as sorting by that contest specific ROI. The only difference is that now if I change contest in that menu, the builder will auto resort the lineups based on the new selected contest's ROI. So you don't have to go and change it again in this drop down. So you get specific contest sorting each time you do that. So I would make that one small change here if you aren't already doing that. And then aside from like direct autofill stuff, let's see. No exposure adjustments in this build. Pretty hands off. Okay, so big things in my opinion. I wonder if that's the default. Okay, it looks like it is. All right. So here's what I would do. So I would check out our DFS profit plan video on our YouTube channel, which I will find that video right now. It's going to be this video here, and I will drop it here in the YouTube chat. So this is just on our homepage. You scroll down, go to popular videos, DFS profit plan, start winning more with our DFS profit plan. This is our contest selection framework that I was talking about. I would definitely check this one out. Next things I would do is I would make those adjustments to using direct fill. If you're going to use direct fill that I talked about with changing the sorting, checking the contest that you're viewing. And then if you need some help there, go to our help docs, go to SaberSim tutorials, check out this autofill versus direct fill and fill methods video. Okay. This should explain what's going on, your different options there. You know, you're probably sacrificing some edge by not using these different options optimally. So check this out. And then if you're having issues with low projected score lineups, third thing I would do is go in and raise your minimum salary. It's at 47,000. I'd probably raise it to like 49,000 because salary and projection are typically correlated. So if you're playing higher salary lineups, you're generally playing a little bit higher projected lineups, which is something that we saw in flashback. Your lineups were a little low projected. So try those three things. Let me know how it goes, and we can always circle back and do another review. All right. Good stuff there. And we are all caught up with users who signed up for the show. So appreciate everybody tuning in. I will be back tomorrow, Saturday, for office hours. So until then, everybody, take care. Good luck. Thanks. Bye.